but yes, we do try and think about PvP when we're designing the skill trees and the skills.
Hi guys. In terms of level design, with Diablo 1 it had a very confined feel that's helped to heighten the sense of urgency. Diablo 2 seemed to start out with a more open feel that then compressed down to a more confined feel as you reach the end game. Judging by the demo, it looks like with Diablo 3 it's sort of an open level design but with a freeway kind of running to the progression of the game. So are you working in one of these two schools going forward with Diablo 3, or is this a new sort of level design that we're looking at?
I wouldn't say it's that we're choosing any specific direction there for like Diablo 1 or Diablo 2. This zone is a pretty wide open zone. It's something that we wanted to put together and run through and see what people thought of that area. But I wouldn't say that stuff's going to be specifically more narrow or more open. It's just going to depend on, really depends on the story and where we think it's each level area is going and each dungeon is going. So I don't know if that answers your question.
We have another question from Twitter. Will there be a Diablo 3 map editor for the client?
No, we don't intend to do a map editor. The reason why is that all of our environments are randomly generated, and to use another high, crazy developing word, our authoring for them is very, very difficult and not really. It doesn't really cater to some kind of a map editor. We actually use professional. We use Maya for most of our map creation. So. And that process, that pipeline, is not easy for us to expose. So we made a decision early on that we would focus on randomness of the environments over doing some kind of a end-user map editor.
Hi. First, I'd like to say hello to all the Quebecois out there. Go Apps Go. And will you be bringing back the Horadric Cube? And how the hell is Diablo still alive?
I'll answer the Horadric Cube question, and I'll let somebody else take the Diablo question. For the Horadric Cube, we really like the way that you can take certain items and combine them into new ones. That's an interesting mechanic. We weren't happy with the exact way that it was done in Diablo 2. We think that there's room for improvement there. So while we want to keep the essence of that mechanic, the actual implementation will probably be different.
For the second part of your question, nice try. We have not actually said that Diablo will be appearing in this game.
In Diablo 2, you have the ability to gamble, and at a time you can gamble some decent items. Will gambling be a part of Diablo 3?
I think one of the main issues with the gambling previously was understanding exactly how it worked. It was kind of a black box. I've talked to a lot of players who said, oh, you know what, I went up, I gambled, I spent all my gold, and I got nothing, and I never did it again. And that's actually a very typical early experience for players to the gambling system. And then you talk to someone who's an experienced player who knows more about, maybe they read on a website or they heard from a friend, or maybe they happened to get lucky the first time they walked up to the gambler, and they're like, what are you talking about? This thing's awesome. It's a great way to spend all this gold that you're probably not using for something else. So definitely the understandability of how gambling worked is important. So I think what we do want to have is, I guess, ways to get items in addition to going on runs. But again, like the Diablo 2 method of gold, black box, something mysterious and random happens, I have no idea what happened, that's probably going to go through some revisions and changes as well.
Camera. Hello. Hi, it's great to be here at BlizzCon. Hi. I wanted to say I love sound effects, and I'm a big fan of Diablo 1's old sound effects. Is there any way that you could bring back some of them, or any of the old death noises of any of the creatures?
You may have noticed there's some in there already from D2, and some of that's accidental. Some of it's just placeholder that we're using because we haven't got to those sounds yet. But I have planned to pay respect to some of the older versions of the game and put some of the older stuff in here and there. I'm not going to say now what that's going to be, but you'll probably hear some here and there.
Hi guys, first off I'd like to say I really like what you've done thus far. I've played both demos you guys got up there. Fantastic, had a lot of fun. My question pertains to class-specific items. I know I've noticed that you've got items like staffs that only the, stones and staves and whatnot only the wizard can use. You couldn't use certain items with the monk. I'm just wondering where you're going to go with class-specific items compared to what was done in Diablo 2.
All right. So we do have an intention to add specific items for every class that are unique to that class. Right now, for the wizard, we have the orbs, which only she can use, the combat staves, and we do have fist weapons that are not in the build, but those are both for the monk, and he can use a couple other weapons. We did, so we do want to go through every class and find some things that they can use. One of the things we want to do is also focus on making those really cool kind of signature items, which means, we don't want the barbarians big item to be like a really cool belt. So it's probably going to be some kind of crazy axe that only he can wield. And so we want them to be pretty showy and pretty cool, but we definitely want to have some specific items. Now, as far as whether those are must-haves for the class, what we prefer, we haven't really tuned them yet, so it's going to be hard to say until we do that, but I feel like what we tend to prefer is the idea that that they're useful for certain builds, but they're not the exclusive thing that you have to use. So if you're a wizard, there might be a lot of builds where a shield is better to use than the orb. We prefer that kind of diversity of item set whenever we can get it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, great, thanks.
Cool.
All right, we have 5 more minutes for questions. Right up there for me? Look right in the camera, okay?
Hi, first of all, Diablo is one of my favorite Blizzard games, but I think it needs more cowbell. My question is, Diablo 2, I loved it. Mephisto made an appearance. Hard boss, loved it though, but Bale got his own game. Is he coming back? And if so, is he going to have a bigger role?
I don't know. You kicked his ass pretty soundly in Lord of Destruction. We're not really talking about who's coming back or who you'll be fighting, but I wouldn't count anybody out. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Maybe a sitcom or something starring all the brothers.
Hi, my question is about monster recoil. In Diablo 2, I played mostly melee class, and one of the things that was enjoyable is when you hit the monsters, they would recoil and actually make it like a sound of pain. So you really felt like your hit meant something and had an impact on the monster. I played the Diablo 3 demo here at the hall and also at last BlizzCon, but I've noticed that when I hit the mobs, they really don't react. It's kind of like lifeless. Are you planning to add recoil when you hit the mobs?
It's interesting that you say that because a lot of our creatures, every creature does have recoil, and we actually use this.
Percentage.
Yeah, there's a percentage chance for them to recoil, and it's pretty much identical to Diablo 2's chance for recoil because it wasn't 100%. And the animations that we play when they do that would, if they were real, they'd actually break the spine of the monster because we make them so pronounced. We also flash the characters, and we do have them play sounds, although I would say on that front, our sound development is still a work in progress, and so maybe those sounds aren't pronounced enough. So I'm actually kind of surprised to hear you say that. But we'll definitely take a look at it. If it's not pronounced enough, we'll continue to work on it.
All right, that looks like that's all our time. Sorry, guys. Please thank our panelists and also join us in Hall C for the Diablo 3 art panel and in this hall for the Dungeon and Raids panel for World of Warcraft. Thanks.
And that was the Diablo 3 Q&A panel with a lot of questions from the fans to Jay Wilson and the team there. A lot of unanswered questions because, as Jay mentioned yesterday when we spoke to him, there are a lot of features of the game that they haven't announced yet.
There is. So that probably means there's still a long way off before the game comes out. However, Jay always does a great job at answering the fans' questions very honestly, very directly.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to hearing much more about Diablo in the months to come. But our uninterrupted coverage of BlizzCon continues here on DirecTV. We have a lot more panels coming up this afternoon. A lot of StarCraft 2 news that may break this afternoon in the StarCraft 2 lore panel. So you guys are going to want to tune in for that. And of course, tonight, we've got Ozzy Osbourne performing live. Kat and I had the chance to see the sound check a couple nights ago. Ozzy is going to rock out with a full set. I hear he's going to play close to 45 minutes live in front of the fans here.
He is. And the other day when he was doing his test, he actually, it was 120 decibels is what they measured the sound at. In the store, in that hall, everything was falling off the walls. It's going to be a rockin' show, I'm telling you.
Absolutely. Well, the fans are excited about that, but they're also excited to walk around BlizzCon and see what else is out there. And Joe Garcia, our field reporter, is meeting with the fans, looking at the booths. Joe, what have you found for us now?
Hey guys, I'm on the floor and we're here with one of Blizzard's partners. It's Heroic Prince. And what exactly is Heroic Prince?
Heroic Prince is a company that we've created to allow the user to pull their tune from the armory and create a unique customized poster of their character from the game.
Okay, so how in detail is this? Does it have just the character? Does it have the realm they're part of? Is it a guild shot? What exactly is it?
Basically, all of the information that is contained in the armory is where we draw upon. So whatever your character is decked out in terms of gear is the pose that would be pulled out from the armory at that point, where then you can position in any one of a couple of dozen different ways in terms of stances and what have you.
And I'm looking behind me. There's a couple posters up on the wall, and we actually have one right down here. And this is someone's actual character. So these are the kind of things that people are printing, and they're having it shipped to their home. Is that correct?
Exactly. What you have here is a standard movie size poster, 27 by 40 inch, and this goes for $24.95. We can then we can ship within 2 business days after ordering, and then FedEx directly to your house rolled up in a tube.
And I've noticed that they have interesting backgrounds, and I saw this card. There's some art on here. Is this exclusive just to BlizzCon?
Yes, it is. Blizzard has been kind enough to supply us with this art that we're offering just as an exclusive for BlizzCon, and after today, we'll be retiring this image.
And people are going to ask this. Everybody wants the class picture. Do you see the guild being a future possibility for print?
We certainly hope so. We're working on that right now, both from a functionality standpoint and a Blizzard approval standpoint.
And the beauty is that people here at BlizzCon get to see it first. It's still currently in beta testing, so it's not going to be available as of yet, but when can the patrons when will it be available to everybody else?
That's the $64,000 question. As we all know, Blizzard doesn't release things until they're ready, and as a Blizzard partner, we feel the same way. We're using this show as a testing ground to get feedback from our consumers and put the final Blizzard polish on the site and the user interface, and we hope to be launched sometime next month.
And